This is Brian Watkins and a video tutorial that I'm preparing for my Accounting 386 class on loop functions in VBA, or Visual Basic for Applications. Now we've learned to write a pretty complicated macro. For example, it takes the next 5 rows and it will convert it into 5 rows into one row that's spread over 5 columns. And I invoke it by hitting my hotkey Control P. So if I do that, I get one line of data that comes out. Now that's wonderful, but I have over 1,000 lines of data, and I could have 1,000,000 lines of data. So rather than sit here and just hit Control P over and over again, we can use Visual Basic language to create a repetition or a loop to do the same thing over and over again in order to save time. Now, if we look at the macro that we've already written, it looks like this. And this is what our macro recorder did for us. All of this language was entered by the macro recorder when we created our macro. It basically takes the active cell and moves, this says 1 column and 3 rows, and then it goes, changes a column, or 1 row, 3 columns, and then goes down 1 row and over 3 columns back, cuts and paste, cuts and paste. You can probably study this and learn something about how to write a macro. But what we're doing is just basically a repetition. We've used relative references so that this macro, every time we do it, will start on that date and continue down. But it would be a lot easier if we could make it loop. So what we would do to make it loop, and I did this is the same words. I cut and pasted it, but I put the word do here and loop at the bottom. Okay, so basically I'm telling the computer, do this, loop up to the top, and do it again. And this one's called cleanup do loop. So now if I invoke a macro, cleanup do loop, and I run it, it goes to town. It just starts running, keeps going, saving me a ton of time. Okay, and let's see what happens here. The only problem with the do loop is that although it keeps going, it doesn't know when to stop. It'll keep going until it runs out of cells, and then it'll crash the computer. So I'd have to go Control break to stop the execution of the code. And I say end. Okay, now that's a respectable way if you're in a rush and you just need to get a whole bunch of things done quickly. And all you can remember of your 386 class was, I know there's a loop that's really simple. That loop is called the do loop. And it looks like this. The word do at the top, the word loop at the bottom. And when I say the top, I mean underneath the subroutine name. Anything subspace this, that means it's a macro. Function space that would mean it's a user-entered function. So that's a do loop. You can change the next level of complication by including a test, turn it into a do until loop or a do while loop. And so what you do is you stick a little test inside your code. Every time it loops through, it's going to check this line right here. It's going to say, if my selection value is not a blank, if it's greater than a blank, if there's something there, and that condition doesn't exist, then I want to get out. So when you don't have something, that means there's nothing. So if not something, then exit. Alright, so let's go to see how that works. And that one's called clean data do while loop. Complicated, so let's just go to a new set here. We'll start up you still have to start the same place. If I started it here, it would do nothing because it's a relative macro. It's only going to go over, it's going to start here and go over. So we always have to start in the right place for these relative reference macros. Okay, clean data do while loop run. And it gets going. Going as fast as I could push that button myself. The difference, though, is every time it loops through, it's checking that condition. And the first time that it's asked to go and do its logic, and there's a blank cell here, it stops. So now, if you have concerns and you don't want to stay and babysit your computer, you can have it do automatic checking of its own status every time it starts. So before it starts, it's going to say, well, I'm not going to do this if I have a blank cell. And that's how you read this line here. Alright, so what more can we do with loops? I mean, loops are, you're just scratching the surface of what you can do with a computer programming language. Next to the if statement itself, the loop command, the ability to go to the beginning of a series of commands, is what makes computers powerful. So let's now go and take a look at code. Let's see. This code right here. Okay? Subcolor rows. And what it does is it takes and it names this final row going to be equal to the cells, and then up, it's looking for a rows count. Okay? The count of the rows will be however many rows are in your data. So let's take a look at a data set. And what we're going to do, let's see, let's take this back here. I think we used the customer's personal data that we had cleaned up. Here we go. So we're going to use this data set. First you have to know your data. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. So what we're going to do is we're going to include that 7 in our formulas here, and it's going to take in rows count. I think I can set on the debug, I can watch certain characters. Let me see if I can make this work here. Okay, if I select rows count, let's see if that works. Toggle a watch. Okay, so now what I've done is I've said, watch this expression right here, rows count, and I'm going to add it. So now when I step through the program, you'll see its value here. So let's put the cursor up here, and let's do a step into. Okay, and then we can go each step through it. So we'll step, I think that's the F8 key. So we're going to start here at the top, and then I'm going to hit F8, and it's going to go to final row, and you can see what's going on with rows count. There's the value. It's long. Okay, and I go 8, 1 to 2 to let's do this. It's not going to make any sense unless I go back and tell you what's going on with final row. So I'm going to add final row to my watch. Okay, so now you can see two things. You can see my final row, and you can see my row count. So what I've done here is I've said, take all of the rows, okay, start over again. Okay, I've set my next statement. So now I'm gonna use the F8 key to execute each line of code. So I'm gonna hit the F8 key. Okay, now I'm looking at final row, and it equals the very end of the, what it's doing here. If you read the cells, it's going to the very end, and then it's using the arrow up key, and it's going to 197. So we could take a look at it right here, and it's going to go to the very end to 104.8576. See, 104.8576, and then it's going to go end up. Okay, that's a nice little way to make sure you're at the last line, because loops don't like blanks. You saw the example I did before. If I have a blank in my data, it's going to kind of mess with the functioning. And so this way, I start from the bottom, and I'm sure that 197, see that value, 197 is my final row. So now I've set my final row equal to 197. Now for I, let's take a look at I now. Add watch. I is empty, but I'm going to set it equal to 2 to final row. Now I go down. Now the next line, I is going to start equal to 2. If cells 2, 7 equals 2009, what that means is I'm coming to the second row, and I'm going to go through the cells, all of the 7 here, and I'm going to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is cell 2, 7. Okay, if I were to change this to different kinds of references, let me show you how you do that. If I go to options, I can change I can say R1, C1. That's row 1, column 1 reference style. So if you ever see someone's worksheet and they're panicking because it's changed, they don't know what to do, this is where you do it, in options. So now I have 1, 1, 2, 2, and you can see right here that this highlighted cell is 2, 7. VBA uses that R1C1 addressing. Okay, so if 1, 7 is 2009, it's not. Okay, so it's going to then end if. Then it's going to go to the next I. Okay, now I is 3. It's going to look for 2009. It doesn't see it, I don't think. Oh, it does see it. Okay, at 3 it's going to see 2009. So then what it's going to do, it's going to resize function, I'm imagining, is a function that will take the cell and make a change to it. Okay, so let's take a look at resize. If I hit F1 with the cursor in resize, it should tell me what's going on. So this is another little tool that you can use when you're trying to figure out your VBA code. Sorry, it takes a while. It takes a long time, I guess. Okay. I'm going to, there we go. Okay, resize property. So what it does is it resizes. If the argument is omitted, okay, resize 1, 7. The number of rows in the range remains the same. So we don't have a row size. Okay, it's an expression that returns a range object. Okay, so it's returning an object that represents that particular row 1, column 7, or whatever whatever's attached to that cell. Okay, and so it's going to take and it's going to select the whole range. So let's reset the breakpoints. Whoops. I don't want to do that one. I want to clear breakpoints. Okay, it's Control F9. Control F9. Come on, bring it back up. Alright, well, we'll just stick where it is. I hit F8. If I come back here, it has redone that entire row as I've asked it to. Interior color index 4. My I is still 3. So now my I, watch it right here. Watch the 3, and when I hit next step, it becomes 4. Okay, and it's going to go through every single row of those 197 rows doing this function. So if I hit F8, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, but it's doing it at computer speed. See, it's already gone and turned one down. And so now, if I were to go in here and reset, okay, I can close my watch list. And I'm just going to come out here and I'm going to, first let's run it at 0, because 0 will remove what I just did. So I'm going to run it. Run. Okay, cleaned everything up. Then I'm going to change this to 4, which is that bright green. And bring it back. Go to macros, color rows, and watch how fast. It's almost instantaneous. That's another benefit of looping. Okay, so there we go. That's how to take it to the next step. That shows how you can use a loop to do a search. Now, what if I want to change and add a function, add something to this subroutine so that I can choose my own number? Well, I use the dim command to create birthday year. Now I have to be careful when I create a variable name not to approach any name that Excel might be using for something else. Because remember, we're tinkering with the guts of the spreadsheet. So if I name that something else, it's going to confuse the computer. So I'm going to say that as, and there's all kinds of different names. I could call it a Boolean, which would be a true or false. I could call it an integer, which is what I'm going to do. I could call it currency, which would give me 2 decimal places. I don't know all the names. Let's see if it gives them to me if I F1 on it. Okay. The dim statement, name of the variable follows standard variable naming conventions. Type, it's optional. Data type of the variable may be byte, Boolean, integer, long, currency, single, double, decimal, not currently supported. Okay. Strings. Variables are available to all procedures within the module. So in order to use birthday year, I have to create it as a name so that I can then use it. And how am I going to use it? I'm now going to, before I get into my looping, I'm going to say birthday year equals input box. And my input box is going to say, please enter the birthday year for which you are searching. Okay? And then I will say the macro will turn all records with this year green. Sorry, I'm way off the screen here. Okay, now if I do a comma, I can do the next thing in order, which is title. Okay, and this will be define birthday year to be searched. And that should be the title of my box. And then I close it. So now my computer is calling a new variable birthday year, and it's going to throw up an input box, and it's going to ask the user to give it a year, and then down here, instead of saying 2009, I'm just going to say birthday year. Because, as the dim function said, it makes this function available everywhere in the module. So even if I had another macro in the module, it could use birthday year. Alright, so now let's go back to our data. Let's clean it up. Let's do a 0. And let's see if I can use 2009 as my color row and clean it up. So I'm going to run it. Please enter, see here's the title, define birthday year to be searched. Please enter the birthday year for which you are searching. The macro will turn all records with this year green. Well, you saw what I just. Somehow I paused my video, but you saw what I just did. Okay, I just realized that the shortcut I've been using to go from screen to screen actually pauses my video, so I can't show you that. So we'll just show 2009. I hit OK, and it ran it, and every time it saw 2009, it went and it overwrote it. So I'm going to put a 4 there now. So now we're going to see green. Okay, and how can we control this? Let's do this. Let's create 2 buttons. Okay, so I'm going to insert, sorry, don't need that. I'm going to go insert a button, and I'm going to say, what do we call this? Color rows. We're going to assign color row macro to that button, and we're going to say search macro. I'll just call it search macro. We could call it something else. You could even define the button as a llama if you wanted to. You know how to do that now. Okay, so I click outside of it. So now when I hit the search macro, it's going to run. But I'm going to do another macro that I'm going to call the clear macro. Okay, so let's create that. I'm just going to cancel this right now. I'm going to go into VBA, and I'm going to copy this. Only this time I'm going to call it clear rows, and I'm going to say, please enter the birthday year you wish to clear. Or I could be even more elegant, and I could just get rid of birthday year. It should still exist from the first function. Let's try that. And I'm going to assign clear rows. Okay. Assign macro clear rows. And I'm just going to say clear data. There we go. Okay. So now we have some control with the toggle right here. So I'm going to search now, and I'm going to say, give me those 2009 birthdays again. Boom, there they are. Okay? And it goes all the way through the data that fast. Great. I've got my information. Now I want to clear it. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, then that means we have to edit that macro. So we'll edit clear rows. I'm disappointed. I thought that would work. Birthday year as integer. And then we're going to say birthday year equals. Okay, now let's look at the input box again. Input box prompt. Please enter the birthday year you wish to clear off of. You wish to clear. I'll figure they know what they mean. Okay. This macro will turn the data back to white background. And then my title is going to be define birthday year to be searched. We'll just give it the same title. Alright, so now if I clear data, I say 2009. What else did I forget to do? Clear rows, edit, 0. It's working. It's just doing exactly what I told it to do. So now I clear data, 2009. Boom, it's gone. Kind of hovered in my eyes as red for a little while. So there we go. So if we want to search, I say search 2012 year of this whole thing's been wrong. I apologize. Year of first order. Okay, so we'll say go, and then 2012, clear. And that's a big mistake, so let's clear that all that up. So I'll change birthday to first order. Please enter the year for which you are searching. Define year to be searched. Sorry for everybody that's been wondering what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so instead of, we're going to call it first order year. And then here we're going to say first order year. First order year. First order year. First order year. And then we'll just take it out of here. Define year. Now you need to know how to use an input box. So there we go. So let's go back now and make it work right. Search for 2008. Wonderful. Clear my 2008. Equally wonderful. That's how to actually use a loop to do something meaningful in your VBA. And there's no limit to the kinds of things you could do. You now have one of the most valuable tools in a programmer's work kit. You know how to loop. And there's, again, three kinds of loops. The uncontrolled loop, where you just do loop until you hit a control break on your keyboard. Or a do while loop that'll loop as long as a certain condition is true. Or a for next loop. And the for next loop that we created here created its own loop by knowing exactly how many numbers your final row has. So to go from 2 to 197, this logic automatically creates the limit that you're looking for. So that's basic looping. Anything that I've done in this video is fair game for the final. You need to know how to do it. You need to be confident. You've seen, I've left it all open for you. You've seen all kinds of mistakes we can make. You have to be absolutely sure to spell everything consistently. You have to make sure that you're using the right controls and the right context. There's a lot to it. That's why we're starting with the simple and getting more complex. But again, look at the macro that you wrote to clean your data. Where's that clean data macro? Here we go. I don't know what that red thing is. I don't want it. There we go. You wrote all of this simply by using the macro recorder. So if you want to learn VBA, get on that macro recorder and start recording things, and then you'll see how those commands would appear, and you'll be able to then use those commands affirmatively just by typing them. Again, that active cell, start wherever the cursor is active. Don't change your row, but change your columns 3 columns to the right. Okay, select it, and then you started with cut, and then you're going to paste it. Then you're going to move your thing back. Learn to read these, because the more confident you are at reading them, the better you are at writing them. So that's that. I'm going to save this Accounting 386 VBA on loops and post it together with this video. Any questions you have, email me. I'm going to post some homework now and something for you to work on for Wednesday night. It'll be relatively simple. Thanks.